Vanakkam, greetings. Swamiji, it's wonderful being with you. However, I do contemplate if I could sit here just in silence for the next 20 minutes with that kind of inner strength that seeps. I'm a little intrigued by this very title that my dear friend told me, educating the mind. Educating the mind? If we only think of educating the mind at this point of time, what have we been doing all this while? All our masters, doctoral, postdoctoral, what have all these been leading to? Were we not educating the mind until now? We are thinking of educating the mind only now. What have we been educating until this far? Swamiji, I would want some guidance from you as to what education means. And if we had not been educating the mind until now, what have we been doing? What is the difference between education that we all are into from education of the mind?
Thank you, Sudhaji, for this very pertinent question. To put it in a very as simple as possible, see, if we have to understand education, we have to bring in another side of the human personality, which usually is not stressed upon. If we just look into the kind of education system that existed in India from the most ancient times, in India, education was always two-sided, both the objective as well as the subjective. Present-day education system is completely focused on the objective side, where we hardly have any space for the subjective. And if you ask me what is the definition of education, Swami Vivekananda has given several definitions of education based upon our ancient wisdom, spiritual wisdom coming from the Upanishads. So one of the definitions is, education is the manifestation of perfection already in man. Let me just simplify it further. To put it in the language of modern physics, what would education look like? I would like to put it as education is the process by which every human being discovers one's own center of gravity. This is in the language of physics. Just 1 minute. Now, what do you mean by the center of gravity? We all know that, you see, in an object, there is a point where the entire weight of the object gets concentrated. And if that object is placed on that point, it doesn't tip this side or that side. It won't tilt this side or that side. You may say it is a perfect balancing point for that object. Similarly, education is the discovery of the center of gravity which is inside every human being. Now, what is that center of gravity that I am referring to? This center of gravity inside every human being, it is neither in the body, it is neither in the mind, it is something beyond the body and the mind. It is at that point that the entire weight of the human personality as well as the human life concentrates. When we discover this point, and if any human being succeeds in placing oneself at that point, your life will be perfectly balanced. Nothing of this so-called objective world will be able to derail your life. Just like that object which is standing on its center of gravity is perfectly balanced. Education should essentially concentrate on this side. One sentence. That point which I am referring to within ourselves, that our ancient rishis have given a beautiful name to it, that is the Atman, the center of divinity. So that center of divinity is our center of gravity inside every human being. Without discovering this center of gravity, our education system will always remain incomplete and defective.
Swamiji, I derive 3 points from whatever I've heard from you now. Point number 1, there is a point of stability, which you would prefer to call as the center of gravity. Do I get it? A point of stability where the individual would remain grounded and stable. And point number 2, this point of stability can also be called the Atma by the Upanishadic tenets. And point number 3, I'm strangely reminded of a story in the Upanishads. And to be very brief about this story, with the permission of Swamiji, there is a conversation between the Guru and the Sishya. The Sishya has a doubt. He comes up with a question. He would want his Guru to explain the categories of education. What are the categories of education? And then the Guru says, what did you learn yesterday? The Sishya says, physics, obviously. And then Guru asks him a question. Did all those, principles in physics teach you something about your point of stability? The Sishya says, no. Fine. Pack all that you learnt yesterday, keep it there. He does. Mentally, he packs everything and keeps it there. And then the next question, what did you learn the day before? Botany. You only taught me about the plants, the herbs. Fine. Did it tell you anything about your point of stability? No. I learned the names of the plants, the herbs, and what could the herbs contribute to my health. Fine. Pack everything, keep it there. Similarly, it goes on for days. Botany is packed and kept. Zoology is packed and kept. Astronomy is packed and kept. Nanotechnology is packed and kept. Geophysics, whatever. All those disciplines are lying there. And then the Guru asks him, have you experienced that education which brings out the divinity in you? The Sishya draws a blank. And then the Guru says, keep that education which you still have not experienced but have heard of there. Now there are 2 categories of education. Name this which identifies you with divinity, that is Paravidya, and the rest all becomes Aparavidya. This is what the Chandogya Upanishad talks about Vidya, and I think, Swamiji, that is what you have been referring to as that point of stability.
Absolutely. It's very important. We should understand one point. No matter, education is not only the matter of collecting information and facts from the objective world. Swamiji very beautifully says, education is not the amount of information that you gather and put into your brains, running right there throughout your life. So what is the essence of education is to know one's own self. And scheme of education which does not actually focus upon this area, see, just by physics, knowledge of physics and chemistry and you name it, the modern AI, whatever you say, this is not going to solve the existential problems of the human being. What about the fear that the human beings suffer from? Insecurities, anxiety, tension, worries, the negative emotions which totally capture the human being, like hatred, jealousy. What about this internal turmoil? Can physics and mathematics and biology solve this problem? This solution comes from the other dimension, which is still now totally unexplored all over the world. India had this education system. Interestingly, we gave it up long back. In fact, Swami Vivekananda says, if at all a complete education system existed in anywhere in the world, it was in this great land of Bharat. Nowhere else. In fact, he says that true education system doesn't exist even today anywhere.
Thank you, Swamiji. But then that leads us to something else. We have curricula today. We have so many of the educationists here, the vice chancellors. We have curricula which are skill-based, competency-based, problem-oriented, challenge-oriented, challenge-driven, problem-solving, hands-on, and so many of them. You think none of these could cater to educating the mind?
Again, Sudhaji, it's a beautiful question. But you're talking about the mind. See, we all have to put some attention towards this. Mind is that instrument through which we are gaining knowledge about this objective world. Let me repeat this point. Mind is that instrument, the device through which we gain knowledge of this objective world. But interestingly and ironically, we have absolutely no knowledge about the mind itself, the device which we are using to know everything else. So what do you mean by educating the mind? Mind is the device to know everything else, but mind also can be the device to know its own self. And when it comes to this point of mind utilizing the mind to know itself, there comes one beautiful term, which I think we have discussed before also. The term called yoga. Education can never be complete unless we incorporate this beautiful ideology, a practical ideology called yoga. Yoga means what? It has got, I'm using the term yoga in its widest sense, not yoga in the sense of a yoga asana. That is a very narrow view of yoga. Yoga essentially is the means. It is the upaya. Upaya, that is, mind is used to discover its own roots. Unless that is done, we use the mind to get facts and information about the objective world. That is not going to solve the problems of humanity. Never has it been so in the past, and never is it going to be in the future. So yoga essentially means the power of concentration. Let me touch this one point. I always say, this I have told before also, this yoga should be the center of all our educational enterprises, all our institutions of technology. Instead of being IITs, they have to be IIYT. Instead of IIMs, they have to be IIYMs. What does it mean? Instead of being Institute of Technology, it should be Institute of Yoga and Technology. Instead of being Institute of Management, it should be Institute of Yoga and Management. This yoga should precede all our so-called educational strivings, because yoga is the essence of education. In all of these technical institutions, I just imagine, in fact, India should take this lead in this matter. We should develop educational institutions with yoga at its core, and we can be the role models. I just worry that before some other country takes up this initiative and starts doing this, we will be missing the bus. Because yoga is something which was born and which was developed in this great country. So we should be taking the first initiative to have our educational institutions completely rooted in this idea of yoga, to which all the so-called empirical sciences can be added.
That's wonderful, Swamiji, because yoga, the root word of yoga is from yuj, and yuj means merger or merging.
Unite.
So unite. Unite, the mind should unite with itself.
That's the thing.
It's currently united with everything extraneous.
Exactly.
So would it have to intrinsically unite within itself to understand its own dimensions?
Yeah, I would just push it further. Mind is focusing, instead of mind being focused on the things outside, it is first focusing upon its own self, then it goes beyond the mind itself. There is something which is even beyond and behind the mind. And that is the whole, what should I say, a thing which we have to dig out. I would better use the term, it's an excavation.
Fine.
This whole thing is just like an excavation. You dig out something which is hidden within each human being. Unless we dig out that center of human gravity, the center of gravity which is inside the human personality, our life is bound to remain unstable and always vulnerable to the so-called ups and downs of life.
Having said that, Swamiji, I have a practical thing to ponder upon. I have been teaching for about 40 years now, and teaching medical students, teaching paramedical students, and what has pained me all through is that the current generation, it appears, the current student generation, it appears, lack mental resilience. And even small failures hurt them large and big. What do we do? How do we go about it?
A very serious problem which we come across in the present day young generation. It's very painful also. The main reason is that we have not educated our students in the right direction. As I said, education is not the question of just getting information about this objective world. Essentially, education of the mind is developing the power of concentration. It is in the lack, our mind is so scattered today, that is why they lack resilience, they lack, even the span of attention has come down so drastically. You just see, nowadays I am finding that the children cannot even watch a movie 2.5 hours long. They want to watch small reels. Can you imagine? Even I'm just talking about a very gross thing like watching movie. Even to watch 2 hours movie, you have to have a long span of attention. So the whole problem lies in this absolute lack of this power of concentration. So education actually means developing this power of concentration. That's why I say every educational institution should start its day with students being put to this wonderful practice of meditating, closing your eyes and letting the mind be focused for at least 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and see the powers of the mind, how it develops. This is the real education which should come into the Indian educational institutions. If this comes, the students will be able to negotiate with the so-called failures and the different so-called negative and unpleasant experiences of life. It is in the absence of this focused mind, the concentrated mind, that we are so fickle and we are carried away and washed away by the so-called unpleasant experiences of life.
Swamiji, I am reminded of 2 of our Tamil scholars. One, the very old ancient Avvayar, who said, Chithiramum kaipazhakkam, Senthamizhum naapazhakkam, Vaithadoru kalvi manapazhakkam. Freely translated, the second line would mean education will have to bring the mind into some kind of habituation. And Subramanya Bharatiyar, who pertinently made the statement, Chinnanchiru kadaigal pesi, the attention span has come down to that level that you cannot even chat for a long while. Even a kind of a chat or yakking will have to be in short spells. And that is what these reels or memes or whatever, the attention span had been reducing. And Swamiji, we just have about an hour, a minute, a little over a minute left. So my last question this morning to you would be, if you can summarize what should be done in the educational institutions to educate the mind and the rider along to empower the heart.
It's a beautiful, let me just conclude by saying that, see, empowering the heart, actually we have not touched upon this point of empowering the heart. What do you mean by empowering the heart? The heart has to be filled. If you mean heart, heart is the seat of human emotions. And human beings have to have a heart full of positive emotions. It is the negative emotions which actually bring about all kinds of miseries in life, and individually as well as collectively. So the heart has to be filled with all positive emotions of love, compassion, sympathy, empathy, appreciation of beauty, the aesthetic sense, truthfulness. These are in fact, a heart which is full of positive emotions, that human being becomes a beautiful human being and a blessing to his society. So, to conclude, I would just like to tell one thing. When we talk about education, essentially this so-called the higher values, these beautiful positive emotions, these cannot be thrusted upon the people from outside. It has to come from within. And the real source from where all these positive emotions emerge, that point is the center of divinity which is inside each one of us. If we succeed in digging out and coming in touch with that center, my dear children, you will see that you will be spontaneously good. Your goodness will not be something which is imposed from outside. It will not be academic moralizing something. Presently what is existing in schools and colleges, it is just like an academic moralizing. We are asking them to be moral. We are asking them to be moral. You don't have to be told that you have to be moral. You will become spontaneously moral once you dig out that your own center of gravity, which is the Atman, which is divinity. One last point I'll tell you. Today we are living in a time of AI, artificial intelligence, which is staring into the eyes of the humanity, the biggest challenge. I would say, yesterday I had a beautiful talk with one of our devotees, and the devotee gave me a beautiful hint. See, now the journey is from AI to AI. What is the meaning of this AI to AI? It is from artificial intelligence to Advaitic intelligence. It's a beautiful thing which we have to think about. Advaita is that philosophy which takes every man and every woman to his or her own center of the Atman. It is this knowledge alone which will empower every human being to face this monstrous thing called AI. I am referring to it as monstrous only in a very narrow sense. It has got many good things, but it can also be something which may consume the human being itself. So the power to handle this device called AI will come when we develop this AI called Advaitic intelligence. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Swamiji. Can I just put it in one line? Artificial intelligence to Advaitic intelligence will mean, in simpler terms, value-based education.
Absolutely.
Wherein you promote values, imbibe values, and probably make values your own habit.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you very much, Swamiji, for that
Wonderful.
lovely session.